Recently, the Discovery Institute, you know what I'm talking about, the intelligent design people. They're the ones who try to get creationism taught in schools. It went to court. There was a big trial. Even after their huge failed court case, those guys are still around, and I feel like it's still a pretty large organization, probably still a multi-million-dollar organization. And recently, they have aimed their slander machine at yours truly. They follow my social media, they write articles about my tweets, they make videos about me. I'm going to talk about that here more in a second, but first, wow. I just realized the last time I posted here was before my trip to Ecuador in December. What I've been doing is I've been focusing all my energy on Stated Clearly. I've been doing animations. Definitely go check those out if you haven't seen them yet. I did one on bee stingers, I did one on single cell bottlenecks, and I even did kind of a Stated Casually style video about ChatGPT over there, where I just asked it a bunch of questions about evolution. It was really fun. I'm still alive. I survived in Ecuador. I need to put together a video for you about that trip. It was amazing. To see blue and gold macaws in their natural habitat, I wasn't expecting that to be the thing that really surprised me, but man, that took my breath away. And we did see river dolphins. This here is stock footage. The footage that we got on our cameras, it tended to be at dusk when they would come up close to us, and so none of the footage was all that great, but we will be doing it again next December. evotour.info is the website where you can go sign up for the newsletter about that. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll be alerted as soon as ticket sales are open. We're only selling 12 spots, so. Anyway, back to the intelligent design stuff. The Discovery Institute. Recently, I had a viewer ask me to respond to all of the material they've been making about me. I looked into the things they were writing. Honestly, it just kind of looked like garbage. Really petty stuff. To me, it doesn't even warrant a response. But I, of course, am biased. Maybe there are some really legitimate criticisms that they're throwing my way. And so what I did is I went and I asked a pro-science evangelical Christian what he thought. Stephen Pinecker is an evangelical Christian who runs a podcast about Mormonism. His podcast, among other things, it helps Mormons understand how their religion differs from mainstream evangelical Christianity. On that podcast, he likes to talk to current and ex-Mormons. And because I was actually raised in the Mormon religion, I used to be a Mormon, he had scheduled me to come on. During that interview, I asked him, as an evangelical Christian, what do you think about the materials the Discovery Institute is making about my science animations? The following is a clip showing his response. If you enjoy this clip, check out the entire thing. There's a link down in the video description. Without further ado, here is a pro-science evangelical Christian responding to the Discovery Institute's attacks on my work.
And it was so funny because, you asked me to watch the video, so I watched your video and then I watched their video. One thing is that it's classic quote mining is what it's a creationist tactic that they'll take one sentence or one word and just go off on it and make that their whole thing. And rather than address the main aspects of whether it's an article or a presentation like you do, they're just going to focus on one or two things that they can say, aha. And then 90% of their video is spent talking about that. That's what creationists do all the time. It's a tactic to make it seem like they're engaging, but they're really not. They're being diversionary.
Yeah. Anytime there's something that really takes hold in the community that becomes convincing for a lot of people in science, any big discovery that people are excited about in science, the creationist kind of machine likes to use those keywords and produce lots of articles and lots of videos and so on. It's kind of like an attempt to censor the internet, I suppose. The Discovery Institute has a separate company called Evolution News, where they write articles about anything that comes out in evolution, and they just say that it's false. This is the tactic that they're using. They're trying to just put out a ton of stuff. It's not a surprise they did that to me because I'm making videos that are used in classrooms. So.
And that's the key thing is that would make you a direct threat to what they're trying to do.
So I made a video called "What is the RNA World Hypothesis?" And again, so this was funded by the Center for Chemical Evolution, Nicholas Hudd. When he and I first set out to do a series of animations about the origin of life, one of the things that we were trying to fight against, the public really does have this idea that the origin of life is already figured out. That actually is a legitimate problem. When I go to schools, I'll ask students before we watch a video, have scientists figured out the origin of life? And probably like 25% of the class will say yes. After they watch the video, I'll ask again, and maybe like one person will say yes. So I'm like, okay, our videos are working. What we're trying to do is show people this is not
figured out. There's a lot of progress happening. And Nick's like, I want to get those high schoolers excited so they come and end up working for me as a researcher. He's like, and right now, when people think this is already solved, they're not excited to go into origin of life research. Why would you get excited to research something that's already been figured out? So there's some pretty strong alignment with my concern, Nicholas Hudd's concern, and the Discovery Institute's concern about origin of life stuff. Is we all agree it's a problem that people think this has already been solved. And a lot of that is due to bad journalism and so on. So the RNA world hypothesis video, there are 4 times in that video where I stop and I point out, this is not fully worked out. I'm showing people what the RNA world hypothesis is in general. I say it's a hypothesis, which means by default that it's not figured out. I never say that it's a fact, that this is how we know that the origin of life happened. At the very end, I talk about different avenues that are also being studied because we don't know if this is it. I also have a video about the metabolism first hypothesis. And in that, I do a lot more attacking of the RNA world hypothesis because we're talking about why a different hypothesis is so important here. So I do find it interesting that they're accusing me of telling people that this is already figured out, because that's exactly not what we're doing. In fact, when I show this video in classes, I do the before and after specific question about this topic. And it's only the kid who wasn't paying attention that will raise his hand and say, yeah, scientists already figured this out.
There's this belief that there's this war going on, and it's kind of like a spiritual war, and that people like you are a direct existential threat to Christianity, American evangelical Christianity in particular, and that you're basically there to undermine and destroy the faith of people. And so by teaching evolution, you're going against the Bible. You're going against, you're rebelling against God. And so in one sense, that they almost view you almost like a satanic person. And it must be weird for you to be on the receiving end of that, but that's what motivates their worldview. They really think that that's what's going on. And I used to, in many ways, kind of growing up, that's kind of early on as a young kid, that's kind of what we were taught very similarly. And so when you're watching the Discovery Institute's attack on you, they're not taking into account the nuance that you're using, and that you're making a point to say, this is the best information we have at the time. This is the hypothesis. This is how it works. So you're describing the hypothesis, and they're taking it like he's saying that this is what happened. And then see, now they're misrepresenting what you're trying to say. And so I think that we all need to be careful on both sides, is that we don't try to come across too firmly, like knowing this is it for sure. Right. I think we all can use nuance. And I think the Discovery Institute, you need to also maybe recognize that you need to be a little bit more honest in the way that you're portraying John's videos, because he's not saying this is it. And this is what science has already figured out. No, this is what science is exploring. This is what it's trying to understand.
Whenever the Discovery Institute attacks a video, it gets more views and I earn more money.
Yeah.
So,
and they're paying to advertise on your videos too. So they're helping fund your channel, ironically enough.